The massive ships appeared above Earth without warning. They blocked out the sun over major cities as they hung in the sky like giant metal mountains. The alien vessels were dark and covered in strange symbols that glowed with purple light. Each ship was 10 times larger than anything humans had ever built. Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense ship Defiance and watched the alien fleet through her command screen. Her hands were steady, but her heart was racing. She had trained for this moment her whole life, but seeing it happen was different from all the practice runs. "Admiral, we're getting a signal from the lead ship," said Lieutenant Park from his station. "They want to talk to our government leaders." Sarah nodded. "Put them through to President Webb and make sure we record everything they say." The main screen flickered and showed the face of an alien creature. It had blue skin and 4 eyes that looked like black diamonds. Its mouth was full of sharp teeth, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "I am Ambassador Kethver of the Zephyrian Empire. We speak for the Galactic Hegemony, the rulers of this galaxy. Your small world will now listen to our demands." President Marcus Webb appeared on another part of the screen. He was sitting in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by his top advisors. Webb was a calm man who had led Earth through many difficult times, but Sarah could see worry in his eyes. "We're listening," Webb said simply. Kethver's 4 eyes focused on the human leader. "Your species has grown beyond your single world. This cannot continue without proper guidance. The hegemony has ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. Every intelligent species serves us. Now it is your turn." The alien paused and seemed to enjoy the silence that followed. Then he continued speaking. "You will provide 30% of all food your world produces. You will give us 50% of all metals and rare materials you dig from your planet. Most important, you will give us 100,000 of your people to work in our expansion projects." Sarah felt her stomach turn cold. The alien was talking about taking humans as slaves. General Ivan Petrov, who was sitting next to President Webb, leaned forward. "And if we refuse?" Kethvar showed his sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. "No species has ever refused. Those who tried to resist were destroyed completely. Their worlds became dead rocks floating in space. How long do we have to decide?" Webb asked. 72 of your hours. This is more time than we usually give. We are being generous because your species shows some promise as workers." The transmission ended, and the alien ships continued to hang in Earth's sky like dark clouds before a storm god Sarah opened a secure channel to speak with President Webb. "Sir, our defense fleet is ready. We have 40 ships that could engage them right now." Webb shook his head. 40 ships against what looks like hundreds. We need to think about this carefully. Call an emergency meeting of the Earth Council. Get everyone together in 1 hour. As Sarah prepared for the meeting, she thought about what the aliens didn't know. For 50 years, Earth had been preparing for this day. It had started when the first alien scout ship crashed in the Amazon rainforest in 1975. The ship was mostly destroyed, but human scientists had learned much from the pieces that remained. The knowledge from that crashed ship had changed everything. Earth's space program had grown much faster than anyone expected. Colonies were built on Mars, Europa, and dozens of other worlds. Trade ships traveled between the planets carrying supplies and people, but the aliens watching from far away only saw what humans wanted them to see. They saw a young species taking its first steps into space. They saw simple fusion engines and basic weapons. They had no idea what humans had really been building. Dr. Elizabeth Reeves walked into the meeting room where Earth's leaders were gathering. She was the head of the secret program that had been studying alien technology for decades. Only a few dozen people knew what she really did for a living. The hegemony thinks we're primitive, she said to the group. Their scans show they've been watching us for about 20 years. They see our civilian ships and our public military forces. They think they know everything about us. President Webb looked around the table at the faces of Earth's military and political leaders. Tell me about Protocol Defiance. Dr. Reeves touched a control pad, and the room's windows became dark. A holographic display appeared in the center of the table, showing a map of human space. Every human colony has been built with defense in mind, she explained. What looks like farming worlds and mining stations are actually fortress planets. Our civilian ships all carry hidden weapons. Our Mars shipyards have been building warships disguised as cargo vessels. General Petrov studied the display. How many ships do we really have? 8,000 combat vessels spread across 47 star systems. The aliens think Earth has 40 ships total. The room fell silent as the leaders absorbed this information. Finally, Webb spoke. What about their technology? Are we outmatched? Dr. Reeves smiled for the first time in the meeting. Their energy shields can't stop physical projectiles moving at high speed. Their plasma weapons are powerful but slow to aim. Their ships are big and strong, but not very quick to turn or move. And their fighters? They don't use fighters. The hegemony believes small ships are useless in space combat. They prefer large vessels with big guns. Admiral Chun had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now she leaned forward. What about their ground forces? Standard infantry with energy weapons. They've never fought against genetically enhanced soldiers or advanced AI support systems. They don't even know such things exist. President Webb stood up and walked to the window, even though it was still dark from the privacy screen. How long have other species resisted before surrendering? Dr. Reeves checked her datapad. The longest was 6 hours. Most surrender immediately when they see the size of the hegemony fleet. And no one has ever won against them? No one has ever really tried. A hegemony is used to species that are afraid. They've never faced a species that has been preparing for war for 50 years. Webb turned back to face the group. Then let's show them something new. Activate Protocol Defiance. Send a signal to all human worlds. It's time to let them know who they're really dealing with. As the meeting ended, Sarah returned to her ship. She opened a secure channel to every human vessel and colony in space. The message she sent was simple, but carried years of preparation. Behind it, this is Admiral Chun. Protocol Defiance is now active. All units report status and prepare for combat operations. The hegemony wants tribute. They're about to learn that humans don't pay tribute to anyone. Across human space, the message was received and understood. On Mars, massive doors opened in the sides of mountains, revealing shipyards full of warships. On Europa, ice miners put down their tools and picked up weapons. In the asteroid belt, cargo ships shed their outer hulls to show the missile launchers hidden underneath. The aliens had given humanity 72 hours to surrender. They had no idea that humans had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. The galactic hegemony was about to learn that some species don't ask for mercy. They make sure they never need it. The next morning, President Webb called a public meeting with Ambassador Kethvar. News cameras from around the world watched as the two leaders sat across from each other in the United Nations building. To anyone watching, it looked like Earth's. Government was seriously considering the hegemony's demands. We need time to discuss your offer with all of Earth's nations, Webb said carefully. This is a big decision that affects everyone on our planet. Kethvar's 4 black eyes showed no emotion. You have already wasted 12 hours. Time grows short for your species. We understand. But surely you realize that any agreement must be accepted by our people. We can't just force them to obey. The alien ambassador made a sound that might have been laughter. Force? You think we care if your people agree? When the hegemony speaks, intelligent beings listen and obey. There is no other choice. While this public conversation continued, the real work was happening in secret. Across Earth's solar system, Protocol Defiance was changing everything. What the hegemony thought they knew about humanity was about to be proven completely wrong. Captain Maria Santos stood in the command center of what the aliens thought was a simple mining station on Ceres. The asteroid had been hollowed out over 30 years, but not for mining. Inside the rock was one of humanity's most advanced military command centers. "Status report," she said to her team. "All stealth systems are working perfectly," reported her communications officer. "The hegemony ships still think we're just a small mining operation. They have no idea we're coordinating defense for 12 star systems from here." Santos nodded and looked at the main display screen. It showed the positions of every human ship and station within 50 light years of Earth. The aliens saw maybe 10% of them. What about the Mars yards? "Construction crews are working around the clock. We'll have another 50 ships ready in 24 hours. All disguised as cargo vessels, of course." The deception had started decades ago when human scientists first studied the crashed alien scout ship. They learned the hegemony sensors looked for specific energy patterns to identify weapons and military technology. So humans had built everything to hide those patterns. Human warships looked like simple cargo haulers or passenger transports from the outside. Their weapons were hidden inside fake cargo containers. Their armor was disguised as extra fuel tanks. Even their engines were designed to appear less powerful than they really were. Dr. Elizabeth Reeves was working in her secret laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps. Around her, teams of scientists were making final adjustments to humanity's most important secret weapons. "How are the AI units performing?" she asked her assistant. "Better than expected. The quantum consciousness networks are running at full capacity. Response time between Earth and our farthest colonies is now under 2 seconds. This was perhaps humanity's greatest advantage. While the hegemony still used organic pilots and simple computers, humans had developed artificial intelligence that could think and react faster than any living being. Every human ship was connected to every other ship through quantum communication that worked instantly across any distance. And the enhancement procedures? All combat personnel have completed the genetic modifications. Strength, speed, and reaction time are all increased by 300%. The hegemony has no idea what our soldiers are really capable of. The genetic enhancements had been another secret project. Using alien DNA samples from the crashed ship, human scientists had learned to improve human bodies. Soldiers could now run faster than any Earth animal, lift weights that would crush normal people, and react to danger before their enemies could even think. On Luna, Colonel Jack Morrison watched his Marines complete their final training exercise. These weren't the same kind of Marines that had fought in Earth's old wars. These were enhanced humans wearing armor that made them look like walking tanks. "Remember," he told his troops, "the hegemony thinks humans are weak and slow. They're used to fighting species that run away or surrender quickly. They've never seen humans fight when we're angry." Private Chun raised her hand. "Sir, what if they tried to board our ships?" Morrison smiled grimly. "Then they'll learn why we call these exercises alien hunting practice. Any hegemony soldier who steps onto a human ship won't be stepping off again." Meanwhile, in space around Earth, the alien ships continued their patrol. They were confident and relaxed. Ambassador Kethvor had reported that the humans seemed frightened and confused, just like every other species the hegemony had conquered. What the aliens didn't notice were the small changes happening all around them. Civilian ships were moving into new positions. Space stations were rotating to point different sections toward the alien fleet. Even the moon seemed to be shifting some of its installations. Back on Earth, President Webb was meeting with his advisors in the secure room beneath the White House. The public still thought their leaders were trying to find a way to cooperate with the aliens. How much longer do we need? Webb asked Admiral Chun. 6 more hours. That will put all of our ships in position and give the enhancement procedures time to finish on our last group of Marines. And our secret colonies? Dr. Reeves answered this time. 847 worlds are now fully armed and ready. The hegemony thinks humans live on maybe 50 planets. They have no idea we've spread to nearly 1,000 star systems. This was humanity's biggest secret. For 50 years, human colony ships had been traveling much farther than anyone knew. Official records showed colonies within 20 light years of Earth. The real colonies extended across half the galaxy. General Petrov looked at his datapad. Intelligence reports that the hegemony fleet above us is just the first wave. They have larger forces moving toward our space, but they're still several days away. Good, Webb said. That gives us time to finish this before they bring in reinforcements. As the hours passed, the final pieces of humanity's plan moved into place. In the asteroid belt, mining ships finished installing their hidden weapons. On Mars, the great doors that had been disguised as mountainsides prepared to open. Throughout human space, 8,000 warships waited for the signal to drop their disguises. The most important part of the plan was the communication system. Every human ship, station, and soldier was connected to the same quantum network. When the fighting started, they would all move together like parts of the same giant machine. Ambassador Kethver was growing impatient. He had expected the humans to surrender by now, just like every other species had done. Instead, they kept asking for more time and talking about democratic processes and consulting with their people. This species is more stubborn than most, he reported to his fleet commander. But they are still primitive. When we show them the power of our weapons, they will surrender quickly. The fleet commander, a large alien with gray skin and 6 arms, was not worried. If they do not surrender in the next few hours, we will demonstrate our power by destroying one of their cities. That usually convinces primitive species to cooperate. Neither alien realized that their every word was being recorded by human intelligence systems. Humanity's technology for intercepting communications was far beyond what the hegemony expected from a primitive species. As the deadline approached, President Webb prepared for his final meeting with the alien ambassador. This time, there would be no more delays or requests for time. Humanity was ready to give its answer. Webb walked into the meeting room where Kethver was waiting. The alien's 4 eyes fixed on the human leader with what looked like satisfaction. He was sure the humans were finally ready to surrender. Have your people reached a decision? Kethver asked. Webb sat down and looked directly at the alien. For the first time in their conversations, he was completely calm and confident. Yes, Webb said. We have reached a decision. We've discussed your demands carefully, and we've consulted with all of our people across all of our worlds. Kethver leaned forward, expecting to hear the words of surrender that every species eventually spoke. Instead, Webb smiled and said something that no species had ever said to the hegemony before. The answer is no. We will not give you our food. We will not give you our materials. And we will definitely not give you our people. You came to our home uninvited. You threatened our families. You demanded our children as slaves. We have only one response to that. Webb stood up and looked directly into Kethver 4 eyes. Get out of our solar system and never come back. This is your only warning. The alien ambassador was so shocked that for several seconds he couldn't speak. Finally, he found his voice. You dare refuse the hegemony? You will be destroyed completely. No, Webb said calmly. You will. The moment President Webb finished speaking, something incredible happened across the entire solar system. Every human ship, station, and weapon that had been hidden for 50 years suddenly revealed itself at exactly the same time. Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of her ship and watched as the space around Earth transformed before her eyes. The 40 ships that the aliens thought were humanity's entire fleet suddenly became 400 as disguised. Vessels dropped their fake outer hulls and activated their weapon systems. All units, this is Admiral Chun. Execute Revelation Protocol. Show them who we really are. On the moon, massive doors that had looked like natural mountainsides suddenly opened. Giant railgun barrels emerged and turned toward the alien fleet. These weapons could fire projectiles at 1/10 the speed of light, fast enough to punch through any armor the hegemony had ever built. Captain Maria Santos watched from her command center inside Ceres as her operators took control of weapon systems across the solar system. All stealth platforms are now active. We have target locks on every alien vessel. The hegemony fleet commander was staring at his sensor displays in complete shock. Where moments before his scanners had shown a primitive world with a handful of small ships, he now saw hundreds of advanced warships appearing from nowhere. How is this possible? He demanded of his officers. Where did all these ships come from? His tactical officer was frantically checking his instruments. Sir, our sensors were wrong. These aren't primitive vessels. Their technology levels are reading far above our own in several categories. Ambassador Kethver was screaming into his communicator from Earth. Attack them now. Destroy this insolent species before they can organize. But it was already too late for that. The humans had been organized for decades. The first shots of the battle came from Luna. The giant railguns fired simultaneously, sending metal projectiles racing toward the alien ships at incredible speed. The hegemony's energy shields, which could stop laser blasts and plasma bolts, were completely useless against solid objects, moving so fast. 3 alien cruisers exploded immediately as the railgun projectiles tore through their hulls like they were made of paper. The remaining ships tried to return fire, but their weapons couldn't hit targets that moved as quickly as human ships. Lieutenant Commander Torres was piloting a human fighter that had been disguised as a simple transport. Now, with its real appearance revealed, it darted between the massive alien vessels like a deadly insect. His ship was connected to the quantum AI network, which meant he could react to enemy movements before they even happened. This is almost too easy, he said over the communication system. Their ships move like they're stuck in mud. He fired a spread of missiles at an alien destroyer. The enemy ship tried to turn away, but it was far too slow. The missiles struck home, and another hegemony vessel disappeared in a ball of fire. Mars, the great doors that had hidden humanity's largest shipyard for 30 years, finally opened completely. Inside were not just the 50 ships that Admiral Chun had mentioned, but over 300 advanced warships that had been built in secret. Captain Rodriguez commanded the first ship to emerge from the Martian yards. All units, this is Dreadnought. 1. We are clear of the facility and moving to engage the enemy. The alien fleet was now surrounded. Earth's orbital defenses had them trapped from below. The moon's weapons platforms were firing from one side. Mars was launching fresh ships from another direction. And in the asteroid belt, mining stations were revealing themselves to be heavily armed fortress platforms. The hegemony fleet commander realized his force was facing complete destruction. All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance. Prepare for orbital bombardment of the planet. But when his ships tried to move away from Earth, they discovered another surprise. Human vessels that had appeared to be simple cargo haulers were now moving to block their escape routes. And these ships were faster and more maneuverable than anything the hegemony had ever encountered. Dr. Elizabeth Reeves was monitoring the battle from her command center. The quantum AI networks were working perfectly. Every human ship knew exactly where every other ship was and what it was doing. They fought like a single organism with thousands of arms. Enemy casualties? She asked her assistant. 43 alien ships destroyed. 0 human losses so far. And their ground forces. Several alien shuttles are attempting to land Marines on our orbital stations. All boarding parties are being intercepted by our enhanced soldiers. High above Earth, on Space Station Freedom, Colonel Morrison's Marines were demonstrating just how wrong the hegemony had been about human capabilities. The alien soldiers who had forced their way onto the station were equipped with energy weapons and light armor. They expected to face primitive humans with simple projectile weapons. Instead, they met enhanced super soldiers wearing advanced combat armor and carrying weapons that could tear through alien. Battle suits like Cloth Dot Private Chan moved through the station corridors faster than any normal human could run. Her enhanced muscles and reflexes made her faster and stronger than any alien warrior. When she encountered a group of hegemony Marines, the fight was over in seconds. Station is secure, Morrison reported. 24 alien boarders eliminated. No human casualties. Similar reports were coming from every human installation the aliens had tried to attack. The hegemony soldiers found themselves completely outmatched by opponents who were stronger, faster, and better equipped than anything they had ever faced. In space, the alien fleet was being systematically destroyed. The hegemony ships were large and powerful, but they had been designed to fight other large, slow vessels. Against human ships that moved like fighters, but hit like battleships, they were helpless. Admiral Chan watched as the alien flagship tried to escape the battle. It was a massive vessel, 10 times larger than her own ship, but size didn't matter when speed and coordination were everything. All units, focus fire on the enemy command ship. Let's end this. Dozens of human vessels turned their weapons on the alien flagship. Missiles, energy beams, and railgun projectiles struck the ship from every direction. Its shields flickered and failed. Its armor cracked and burned. Within minutes, the pride of the hegemony fleet was a broken wreck floating in space. The few surviving alien ships stopped fighting and tried to surrender, but they discovered that their communication systems were being jammed. The humans weren't interested in accepting surrender. This wasn't a battle for territory or resources. This was a message to the galaxy about what happened to species that threatened human families. As the last alien ship exploded, Ambassador Kethvar found himself being arrested by human security forces on Earth. His diplomatic immunity meant nothing now that his fleet had been destroyed. "This is impossible," he kept saying. "You're supposed to be primitive. How do you have such technology?" President Webb looked at the alien ambassador with cold eyes. "We've been watching your people for longer than you think. We learned from that scout ship you lost 50 years ago. While you thought we were just starting to explore space, we were actually preparing for this day." Dr. Reeves entered the room carrying a data pad. "Mr. President, the battle is over. Total victory. We lost no ships and only minor damage to a few stations." Webb nodded, then turned back to Kethvar. "Your fleet came here expecting to find a weak species that would surrender without a fight. Instead, you found humans. We don't surrender. We don't run away. And we don't forgive threats against our families." The alien ambassador's 4 eyes were wide with shock and fear. "The hegemony will send more ships, thousands of ships. You cannot defeat the entire galaxy." "We'll see about that," Webb said. Calmly, "Send a message to your leaders. Tell them that humanity is no longer hiding. Tell them that the species they thought was primitive has been preparing for war for 50 years. And tell them that if they want to fight, we are ready to give them one they'll never forget." As Kethvar was led away to a prison cell, Webb turned to Admiral Chun. What's our status across human space? All colonies are reporting ready for the next phase. 8,000 ships are armed and waiting for orders. Our hidden bases throughout the galaxy are prepared to begin operations. Webb walked to the window and looked up at the sky where the debris of the alien fleet was still burning. Then let's show the hegemony what happens when they threaten the wrong species. Send the word to all human forces. Operation Liberation begins now. Across hundreds of star systems, human ships that had been hiding for decades suddenly revealed themselves. The galaxy was about to learn that the hegemony's 3,000-year reign of terror was coming to an end. And the species that would. And it was one that had been dismissed as primitive and weak. The hegemony had made the mistake of threatening humanity's children. Now they would learn why that was the worst mistake any species could ever make. News of the tribute fleet's complete destruction spread across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. On Nexus Prime, the capital world of the hegemony, emergency meetings were being held in the great council chambers where decisions had been made for 3,000 years. High Overlord Vex Star slammed his six-clawed hand on the council table as he read the reports. Impossible. No primitive species could destroy an entire tribute fleet without losing a single ship. The military commander, General Thokrin, stood before the council with fear in his eyes. The reports are confirmed, my lord. All 400 ships of the tribute fleet are gone. The humans somehow had advanced technology and thousands of hidden vessels. Then we will show them the price of defying the hegemony. Vexstar roared. Assemble the Grand Armada. Every ship from every member species. We will turn their home system into a graveyard. Within days, the largest military force in galactic history was moving toward human space. 50,000 ships from 12 different species, all serving the hegemony. It was a fleet that could conquer entire star clusters, and it was all focused on destroying one upstart species that had dared to say no, but humanity had been expecting this response. On Earth, President Webb was meeting with his military leaders in the deep bunker that served as their war room. Intelligence reports that the hegemony is sending everything they have, Admiral Chun reported. 50,000 ships, maybe more. They'll be here in 2 weeks. General Petrov looked at the tactical displays. That's 10 times larger than any fleet we've ever planned to fight. Dr. Reeves smiled coldly. Then it's a good thing we're not planning to fight them here. Webb turned to her. Explain. We're not going to wait for them to reach Earth. While they're gathering their forces and traveling slowly toward us, we're going to hit them everywhere else. Our hidden colonies have been building ships and weapons for 50 years. It's time to use them. The plan that Dr. Reeves outlined was breathtaking in its scope. Human forces wouldn't retreat to defend Earth. Instead, they would attack hegemony. Worlds across the galaxy simultaneously. While the enemy was focused on reaching Earth, humans would be destroying their home worlds. Captain Rodriguez was commanding a fleet of 300 human ships that had appeared in the Vorth system, one of the hegemony's major military bases. The aliens there had thought their world was safe, thousands of light years from human space. All units, this is Rodriguez. Execute Plan Hammer. Show them that nowhere in the galaxy is safe from human justice. The human ships used new technology that the hegemony couldn't understand. Instead of traveling through normal space, they moved through dimensional folds that made them completely invisible until they appeared at their target. The aliens called them ghost fleets because they seemed to come from nowhere. On Vorth Prime, the planetary defense commander was staring at his screens in horror. How did they get here? Our sensors showed nothing. His aide was frantically checking the reports. Sir, they're human ships. But humans are supposed to be fighting near their home world. Get me a communication channel to the human fleet. The commander ordered. Captain Rodriguez accepted the communication. His face appeared on screens across the Hegemony military base, and his words were cold as ice. People of Vorth Prime, your leaders have declared war on humanity. They have threatened our families and demanded our children as slaves. We are here to deliver justice. You have 1 hour to surrender all Hegemony military forces and personnel. Anyone who refuses to cooperate with the Hegemony will be protected. Anyone who continues to serve them will share their fate. The same message was being broadcast on dozens of worlds across the galaxy. Human fleets had appeared everywhere, once using technology that seemed like magic to species that had never seen dimensional fold drives. On Kelmer Station, a major Hegemony supply depot, the alien workers were in panic. 300 human ships had surrounded their facility, and they had no defenses capable of stopping such a force. Commander Sarah Martinez was leading the human fleet there. Kelmer Station, this is Commander Martinez of the Human Liberation Fleet. Your facility has been supporting the enslavement of free species for centuries. You will shut down all operations and release any prisoners or forced laborers immediately. The station commander, a reptilian alien named Scar, tried to negotiate. We are just following orders. We cannot simply stop our operations. Ben, you've chosen your side, Martinez replied. All human ships target the station's military sections. Leave the civilian areas intact, but destroy everything that supports the Hegemony war machine. The attack was swift and precise. Human ships used weapons that could target specific parts of the station, while leaving other sections completely undamaged. Within minutes, all of the station's military capabilities were destroyed, but the civilian living areas were untouched. Similar attacks were happening across the galaxy. The Hegemony's supply lines were being cut. Their military bases were being destroyed. Their communication networks were being jammed. And everywhere, the same message was being broadcast. The Hegemony's reign of terror is over. Surrender your oppressors and join the fight for freedom. Some species that had served the Hegemony for centuries began to rebel. The Vorthans, who had been conquered 2,000 years ago, suddenly attacked their Hegemony overseers and declared their independence. The Kalari, who had been forced to build ships for the Hegemony fleet, sabotaged their own factories, then continue supporting their oppressors. High Overlord Vex Tar was receiving reports of disasters from across his empire. How many systems have we lost? His aide checked the latest reports. 47 major military installations destroyed. 15 supply worlds captured. 3 entire species have declared rebellion. And our communication with the outer territories has been completely cut off. What about our Grand Armada? Still moving toward human space, my lord. But they're being attacked during their journey. Human ships appear from nowhere, destroy part of the fleet, then disappear before we can respond. The Grand Armada was indeed suffering. Admiral Klexfor commanded the largest fleet in galactic history, but his ships were being picked apart by an enemy that refused to fight fair. Human vessels would appear from dimensional folds, destroy a group of ships with incredible speed, and firepower then vanish before the Hegemony could organize a response. How many ships have we lost? Klexver demanded. 3,000 so far, sir. And we're still 5 days from human space. The Admiral looked at his tactical displays. The human ships moved faster than anything he had ever seen. Their weapons were more accurate than Hegemony technology, and their ability to appear and disappear at will made them nearly impossible to fight. But the worst surprise was still to come. Dr. Reeves was in her command center, monitoring the progress of humanity's ultimate weapons. Status report on the planet killers? Her assistant checked the displays. All 7 targets are in position. The modified worlds are ready for final acceleration. This was humanity's most terrifying secret. 7 dead planets had been converted into massive kinetic weapons. Using gravitational manipulation technology that the hegemony didn't even know existed, these worlds had been accelerated to nearly the speed of light. They were invisible to most sensors, and once launched, they couldn't be stopped or deflected. Targets confirmed: Nexus Prime, Hegemony Central Command, and 5 major fleet bases. Impact in 6 hours. President Webb gave the final authorization. Execute Planet Killer Protocol. End this war. Across the galaxy, 7 dead worlds that had been moving through space for months suddenly changed course. They turned toward the most important hegemony worlds and accelerated to their final attack speed. High Overlord Vextar was in his palace on Nexus Prime when the warnings began. Sir, our sensors are detecting a massive object approaching at incredible speed. What kind of object? It appears to be a planet, sir. Moving at 90% light speed. Vextar stared at his aide. That's impossible, sir. Impact in 30 minutes. There's no way to stop it. For the first time in 3,000 years, panic spread through the halls of hegemony power. The rulers of the galaxy realized they were about to be destroyed by weapons they couldn't understand, built by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Ambassador Keffer, still in his prison cell on Earth, was brought to President Webb's office to witness the end of his empire. Your people thought humanity was weak, Webb said as they watched the displays showing the approaching planet killers. They thought we would surrender like every other species. Instead, they're about to learn what happens when you threaten human families. Kethvar watched in horror as the displays showed the final moments of Nexus Prime. The planet killer struck the hegemony capital world with the force of a small star. The entire planet was shattered into cosmic dust in seconds. Across the galaxy, 5 more hegemony worlds suffered the same fate. In one day, the military and political power that had ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia was completely destroyed. It's over, Webb said simply. The hegemony is finished. Now comes the hard part, building something better. 6 months after the fall of the hegemony, the galaxy was a very different place. Ambassador Kethver stood in chains before the newly built Galactic Congress building on Earth, watching as representatives from 200 species gathered for the first free assembly in 3,000 years. Some of these species had served the hegemony willingly. Others had been slaves for so long they barely remembered what freedom meant. A few had tried to fight the humans after the hegemony fell, hoping to take their place as galactic rulers. All of them were here now to face judgment and, perhaps, to find a new way forward. President Webb walked up to the platform where Kethvar and other former hegemony leaders were waiting. The human leader looked older than he had 6 months ago. The weight of reshaping an entire galaxy had aged him, but his eyes were still strong and determined. Today we decide the future of our galaxy, Webb announced to the assembled delegates. For 3,000 years, one empire ruled through fear and oppression. That time is over. The question now is, what will replace it? Kethver expected to hear words of conquest. He expected the humans to announce that they were the new masters of the galaxy. Every species that had ever gained power had done the same thing. The strong ruled the weak. That was the way of the universe. Instead, President Webb said something that shocked every being in the great assembly hall. Humanity did not fight this war to become your new rulers. We fought to ensure that no one would ever rule over anyone again. A murmur of confusion spread through the gathered delegates. The representative from the Kalari species, a small blue-skinned alien named Tokron, stood up. If humans do not wish to rule, then who will maintain order? Who will prevent wars between species? Who will enforce galactic law? Webb smiled. We will. All of us. Together. Dr. Elizabeth Reeves stepped forward with a datapad in her hands. We propose the formation of the Galactic Defense Compact. Not an empire ruled by one species, but an alliance of free peoples working together for mutual protection and prosperity. She activated a holographic display that showed the structure of the proposed government. Each species would maintain complete control over their own worlds and colonies. No outside power could interfere in your internal affairs. But if any species threatens another, all members of the compact would respond together to stop them. The delegate from the Vorthans, who had been among the first to rebel against the hegemony, raised her hand. What about disputes between member species? Who would settle conflicts? A council made up of representatives from every member world, Admiral Chun replied. Decisions would be made by majority vote, with extra protection for smaller species to ensure they aren't overwhelmed by larger ones. Kethvar couldn't stay silent any longer. This is madness. You cannot govern a galaxy through committee. There must be strong leadership. There must be hierarchy and order. President Webb turned to look at the former hegemony ambassador. The kind of order you provided? Where strong species enslaved weak ones. Where entire civilizations were destroyed for refusing to surrender. That wasn't order, Kethvar. That was tyranny. But without strong leadership, there will be chaos. Species will fight each other. The galaxy will tear itself apart. Maybe, Webb admitted, but that will be their choice to make. Free people have the right to make their own mistakes. They also have the right to learn from them and do better. A new voice spoke from the back of the assembly. It belonged to Sekthar, a representative of the Zephyrian people, the same species as Kethvar, but one who had spent years as a slave laborer in hegemony mines. My people served the hegemony as soldiers and administrators for 2,000 years, Sekthar said. We believed we were bringing order to the galaxy. We were wrong. The humans have shown us what real strength looks like. It's not the power to force others to obey. It's the wisdom to know when not to use that power. The assembly fell silent as delegates considered these words. Finally, a representative from the Draconi Empire stood up. The Draconi had been one of the most powerful species under the hegemony, and many expected them to try to claim leadership now. The Draconi Empire wishes to join this defense compact, their delegate announced. We have seen what happens when power is concentrated in the hands of the few. We choose cooperation over domination. One by one, other species added their voices in support. The Kalari, who had built ships for the hegemony. The androids, who had served as administrators. Even some of the smaller species that had been completely enslaved expressed their willingness to try this new form of government. Not everyone agreed, of course. Several species left the assembly rather than accept human leadership of the new order. A few tried to establish their own small empires in distant parts of the galaxy. But they found that their neighbors, now armed with human technology and protected by the Defense Compact, were no longer easy targets. As the formal signing ceremony began, Kethvar found himself being escorted to a private meeting room. President Webb was waiting for him there, along with Admiral Chun and Dr. Reeves. What happens to me now? Kethvar asked. Will you execute me for my crimes? Webb shook his head. We're not in the business of revenge. You and the other hegemony leaders will face trial for your crimes. That's true. But the purpose isn't to punish you. It's to establish that no one is above the law, no matter how powerful they once were. And if I'm found guilty, you'll serve time in prison, probably for the rest of your life. But you'll be treated humanely. You'll have access to education, to books, to communication with your family if they want it. You might even be allowed to contribute to society in some way if you choose to change. Kethvar stared at the human president. You're offering me mercy? After everything the hegemony did to your people? We're offering you justice, Webb corrected. There's a difference. Mercy is giving someone less than they deserve. Justice is giving them exactly what they deserve, no more and no less. Dr. Reeves stepped forward. We've also prepared something else for you, if you're interested. A chance to understand what you are really part of. She handed him a data pad containing testimonies from thousands of beings who had suffered under hegemony rule. Stories of families torn apart, worlds destroyed, entire species driven to extinction for the crime of wanting to be free. Read these, she said. Learn what your empire really was. Maybe someday you'll understand why we fought so hard to stop. As Cuthbert was led back to his cell, he carried the datapad with him. For the first time in his life, he would hear the voices of the hegemony's victims. It would be a long and painful education, but perhaps one that would help him become something better than what he had been. Back in the assembly hall, the signing ceremony was reaching its conclusion. Representative after representative stepped forward to add their species, signature to the founding document of the Galactic Defense Compact. President Webb was the last to sign. As he put his name on the document, he thought about all the humans who had died to make this moment possible. Soldiers who had fought in the great battle above Earth, scientists who had worked for decades in secret to develop the technology that made victory possible, colonists who had spent their lives building hidden bases on distant worlds. This is for them, he said quietly as he finished signing. For everyone who believed that freedom was worth fighting for. Admiral Chun stood beside him as they watched. The delegates celebrate. Do you think it will work? This new government? Webb looked out at the gathered representatives. Some were former enemies. Some were former slaves. Some were species humanity had never even known existed until the war began. All of them were now trying to work together to build something that had never existed before. A galaxy where strength served freedom instead of crushing it. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe it will fail. Maybe some of these species will try to dominate others. Maybe we'll have to fight more wars to protect the weak from the strong. But at least now they have a chance to choose their own path. Dr. Reeves joined them at the window overlooking the assembly hall. The hegemony thought power came from forcing others to obey. We've shown them that real power comes from inspiring others to choose cooperation over conflict. And if they choose conflict anyway? Chun asked. Webb's expression grew serious. Then they'll learn that humanity still remembers how to fight. We've hidden our weapons again, but they're still there. Anyone who tries to restart the old ways of conquest and slavery will face the same fate as the hegemony. As the celebration continued below, the three humans stood together and watched the birth of a new galactic order. It wasn't perfect. It might not even survive. But for the first time in 3,000 years, every species in the galaxy had the chance to determine their own destiny. The hegemony had demanded tribute and threatened destruction when humanity refused. They had learned too late that some species don't ask for mercy. They don't beg for their lives or surrender their freedom. They make sure that freedom never needs to beg again, in the end. That was humanity's greatest victory. Not the destruction of the hegemony, but the creation of something better to replace it. A galaxy where the strong protected the weak instead of exploiting them. A galaxy where the answer to tyranny would always be the same word that President Webb had spoken to. Ambassador Kethver so many months.